in 2023 budgets commendable, and that's coming from the Minister for Information, Kojo Oppong Nkrumah. And there's an editorial here, Bank of Ghana not bankrupt. It's captured on page 5. If we have time, we'll delve into that. And where did you get the money to campaign in 2016? Maurice Ampao queries Mahama.
I don't know, but I think that these, okay, so I have money under my bed. Have you not kept money under your bed before? I have money under your bed. Where did you get the money to campaign? I think it's level zero kind of argument.
I'm so confused.
Say what this to umpase.
Let's deal with that.
Let's deal with that. What's this equalization? And these are middle class people who are supposed to be educated. Come on. Anyway, Crosby, what do you have there?
Good morning, Johnny. On the front page of the Finder, it says sort cut for 8,000 housing units. The story is on page 2. Government subsidizing by over 40% through free land and amenities. There's also NLA unveils 4 new draw machines, relaunches the VAG Lotto. After primaries, all aspirants should back winner to defeat NDC. Dr. Bawumia, stories on page 5. And some constituency chairman in Greater Accra endorsed Dr. Efrie Akoto. Plus 21 billion cedis cut in 2023 budget commendable, coming from the Information Minister Kojo Oppong Nkrumah. On the front page of the Custodian newspaper, it says we need united front to fight NDC. Bawumia to the 9 aspirants, and NPA shuts down NPP chairman's fuel station. There's also chairman in team launches MPP membership dues. Government's 21.7 billion cedis expenditure cut laudable. Oppong Nkrumah is saying Greater Accra NPP chairman back Efrie Akoto. Comes with the pictures of the chairman of the Ladadoko constituency, Ashaiman constituency, Shai Osudoku constituency, and the Ningo Pram Pram chairman.
Okay. We'll get into the details right now. Where do we begin, Helen?
Kojo Oppong Nkrumah. We were just saying yesterday, I think it was, that we hadn't heard from him in a while. Crosby, have you heard from your good friend in a while?
Well, I saw him yesterday.
Oh, I see. How was
he?
he?
In the papers.
Oh. You set that one up, Crosby. I was waiting for the juicy details.
I saw
in
him
any case.
In
the papers.
See him in the papers the same
What
thing.
about you, Mr. Hughes? When did you
last? Kojo in a
long time. I didn't want to talk.
No.
Okay.
I decided for some good reason that I wasn't going to attend any of those press briefings anymore.
Why is that?
Because when you go and you ask questions, either your questions are rephrased and asked of the ministers or whoever is there. Okay?
Yeah.
And it's happened too many times. We've seen it on TV.
What Johnny is saying is
so I ask about, Helen,
Ooh.
why are you wearing a brown dress? And then the question is rephrased to say, Mr. Minister, so can you tell us why brown dresses are good? That's not my question. My question is, why are you wearing the brown dress? So I decided that, why do I need to be there? Number 2, if you go and you're being too critical, the atmosphere is created as though you are trying to disrupt the whole event and all of that. I don't think that, because the Minister for Information, when he was practicing as a journalist, and I'm happy to have practiced at the same time when he was practicing, I was morning show host on TV Africa, morning show host on Pravda Radio, when he was also morning show host. So we used to attend those press briefings, and we saw how he was asking his questions. So why can't we ask the same questions now? He should accept that he's a politician now. He's not a journalist now, practicing at this time. He's a politician. So he should play his role as a politician. And then we will play our role as fourth estate of the realm journalists. So when you try and reorganize as if I don't have a head of my own, I won't attend your meetings. Yeah, it doesn't add up.
All right. Well,
press conferences, when you go to the press conferences, you ask a minister a question, then the information minister or his deputy will decide to answer the question on the minister's behalf. Yes. They will not have the information from the source, but because they want to be like cover the minister in a certain way, then they play around, water down your question in a way that you really come out with.
My question is,
nothing.
why are you wearing a brown blouse? It is not why the color brown or brown blouse is good.
And sometimes you ask the questions like, did he hear you?
Yes,
you're really surprised.
And sometimes your questions are ignored. in a very interesting way.
Yeah.
So if you raise your hand in the audience, want to ask and say, sorry, we forgot. And then the question is rephrased.
Guys.
What kind of cat and mouse game is that?
The people are paid as PRs, master.
Yeah, but they are paid as
You're
PR.
a professional PR. You are a strong member of IPR.
I am, but look, William, I am a strong member of IPR, right? Kojo is on the page with me. I know where to do my PR job, and I know when to do journalism. You must draw the line.
But who told you he's there to do journalism? He left Joy like 50 years ago.
All right. Well, the story reads as follows. It's captured in page 3 of the ABC newspaper. The Minister for Information, Kojo Oppong Nkrumah, says 21 billion cedis reduction, 21 billion Ghana cedis reduction in the government's appropriation for the 2023 fiscal year is commendable. Contributing to the statement on the mid-year budget presented by the Finance Minister on Monday, Mr. Nkrumah said, though calls remain for further budget cuts, the mid-year 21 billion cut is commendable. I'm quoting him here. He says, I think one of the first things to note is that the appropriation has been reduced by 21 billion cedis, and I think for those who pay attention to fiscal policy or to the fiscal framework, that is a good thing, except that 10 billion of that is somewhere around interest payments, and the rest is spread across the various expenditure lines. Nonetheless, it's a reduction in the appropriation of the government expenditure, and I think it's something that should give the people comfort.
I get the same sense from Dr. Amin Adam, who appeared on New Day yesterday, that because we said we're going to spend 80 and we ended up spending 60, then we have done very well. Did you actually need 80 in the first place? Or is it the 60 that you needed, and that because people were complaining that you were spending too much, so you had to spend up to 60 so that it looks good, so you can bring this narrative up? In any case, we're seeing all the wastage. In the Auditor General's report alone, there's 15 billion wastage. 15 billion. The year before it was 17 billion. The year before it was 12 billion. I'm talking billions of cedis. So when you come to tell me that, we were supposed to have spent 80, but we ended up spending 60 something, so we deserve commendation. It's just like the headmaster who collects school fees and then is supposed to provide markers for the teachers to be taught by the children. He doesn't provide it for a week, and then eventually when he provides, they say, we're going to see we have done well. Clap for us, clap for the children, clap for the school. That's what the government is doing. Clap for us.
You see, yesterday I was listening to a South African channel, and we were talking about a certain company in Ghana that has made so much profit, and the analyst said, look, the system in Ghana is said that if you make so much profit, it comes to nothing because the macroeconomic environment is so stifling.
That's right.
Now we've done some cuts. Whatever it is, those monies have already been eroded by the inflation.
That's right.
So whatever we are doing in Ghana today is, so if we have been able to bring down inflation to say single digit or even double digit 18%, then we can be clapping for ourselves.
That will make sense.
Exactly. But when we are in reverse gear, all the media review figures are in reverse gear. So
that's what
by December we are looking at 31.3.
That's what Dr. Sarkodie said, that look, all these things, if you have not made single digits, you have not arrived.
So
he said it yesterday.
If you cut, fine. But against the bigger picture, we are not doing so well.
Yeah.
Yesterday I listened to Joe Jackson around 10 o'clock on Ghana Tonight, and the picture was painted in a very gloomy lens. At the end of the day, jobs. How are we going to do production to employ more people when interest rate is so high? Where we have a certain inflation figure that is beyond 40%. So whatever we do is against those figures.
That's right.
So if we are able to look at the macroeconomic indicators, and then we talk about the monies themselves, cutting and adding, and it's nothing.
And thinking about the lender of last resort also being in serious trouble, it's really very terrifying. Very terrifying.
I heard the head of research. That he was not even too sure in the beginning how much had been lost.
He says, is it 60 million?
Yeah, this is the head of research. He was not too sure how much they had lost. Is it 60 million or something? It tells you the kind of lax attitude, in which our monies are being handled.
Yeah.
And for me, it's painful because the Bank of Ghana should not have been at the beck and call of the government in terms of trying to support things like budget deficit. if the government is being reckless in its spending, the government set aside its fiscal discipline law that they brought, and then all the Bank of Ghana does is pump money. Because when the Bank of Ghana started printing money and tossing it into the economy, billions of cedis, we started complaining.
Oh yes.
But they didn't listen to us.
You see,
now we are all there, and they are telling us, it doesn't mean that they cannot enforce their regulatory authorities. You give people a reason to say that the banks are insolvent and so they should be closed down. People lost their jobs. Some people have not even been paid their monies. You, the regulator, you are saying that, as for you, the standard you set for others to meet, you have not been able to meet the standard. But as for you, you are good to go. What kind of logic is that?
Yesterday, I was listening to. In fact, I had some conversations with some officials even before Dr. Abredu came on. And the impression I got was that the government had messed up. The Bank of Ghana had also messed up.
Agree.
But in those two mess ups, if they don't support the government and the government goes deeper, it will be problematic. So they will take the shot.
For who? For the bank
for the state,
or for the government?
For the state.
For the state, for all of us,
yes,
for you and
because
I.
the government has messed up. So they don't have liquid.
Yes.
Insolvency is catching the country.
That's right.
So we would rather take the bullet and be insolvent for the government or the state to survive. Because even if we are insolvent, we can still carry out some of our mandates. In fact, all our supervisory will take the insults and everything. That's where we are. And that's a fact. Because if they say they don't give government money, government has over-borrowed. Well, they can't go to the
can't go outside.
They can't go to
Nobody will
the
give you
Euro
money.
market. They can't go to China because China saw 1.9 is sitting there. They haven't even discussed.
That's right.
If they come to the local scene, treasury bills they've collected. So where can they go? Then the last resort thing will come.
Yeah.
We have small. So you've messed up. But you go and take. So they have started. They are taking the bullet for government.
They are taking again.
Yeah. I mean, Bank of Ghana is taking the bullet
They're taking the fall for government.
Yes.
It's shocking because government cannot rein itself in. The Bank of Ghana cannot rein government in. The people cannot rein government. So who can rein government in?
So now Parliament, the Finance Committee of Parliament must now come in and then investigate the matter and let heads rule.
That's what Dr. Abuaji
exactly,
Deborah
because
mentioned.
then you've asked the question, which organization, which body, which entity can touch anything now?
Yes.
Because the three arms of government, the executive, parliament, judiciary. So if people have messed up at the Bank of Ghana, which some of them did during the banking crisis, they should go into court by now. But I don't know whether they've started convicting any of those individuals. I know some of them were before some bodies of investigation and stuff like that. So if the Finance Committee of Parliament can set up and then put together a team to probe the whole situation, because the laws are clear.
Right.
How much Bank of Ghana can give to government at any time and how much the limit they can give.
Right.
So if those laws are flouted, then they'll come and say, Chief, we did it, but if we didn't do it, the government will collapse.
Psalm 118 verse 12.
No,
They
we won't take
swarmed
it. We
around
won't
me
take it.
like bees,
We won't take it.
but they were consumed as quickly as burning thorns.
We won't
In the
take it.
name of the Lord, I cut
Cut
them
them
down.
down.
Another worrying trend, Johnny, is if you read the Bank of Ghana's report, the mentions of the struggles that the Bank of Ghana in. But if you try to look for solutions, you hardly find any. There's a lot of hope, a lot of belief, a lot of no action. It's just, hoping well that
It's vibes on vibes.
That is what worries me the most, because we're going into 2020 for an election year. You know what we do in the country when elections are
Right.
coming.
What do we
Right.
do, please?
I left off my drama quick.
I cut you down.
I cut you down.
And then if the Bank of Ghana does not have money, on the face of it, it is, we're going into an election year, we know what happens. Then we're going deeper into a certain ditch that we really do not know who is digging and who is contributing to who is digging the ditch. I think it's a worrying trend that we don't know the solution to this.
But you see, when the laws are set for politicians and other top officials to follow and make the economy run, they shouldn't take it for granted. Because when you sit behind your TV and watching international news, countries in West Africa are burning all because of economic and financial issues. The people on the ground are hungry and angry. And as the experts are telling the government, if they mess up the economy, the youth will rise and cause problems. Even Sierra Leone, which recently recorded some high index in terms of their peace, their peaceful environment. Yesterday, there have been some problems there. Niger, Guinea, Mali, Burkina Faso. The whole West African sub-region is in turmoil because the politicians are not giving the youth any hope. Yesterday,
you mentioned here the other time that you had seen the action proper. We read about the action.
Oh, no.
At the time when I was growing up, there were the last remnants of the action where Jack Bebley was in his element. But that was the latter part. But I'm talking about use of the action.
Yes.
The conditions that it's the same in Niger, same in Mali, same in Burkina, same in Ivory Coast, everywhere. People complain about the basic necessities of life. They complain about the economy. They complain about bad leadership. They complain about bad management of their resources and everything else. And consistently, African leaders, that's why I feel very disappointed in ECOWAS and the African Union.
Look, they are concerned about
they are going to take arms.
The precedence.
And the reaction was so dangerous. That
very dangerous.
3 military leaders in the sub-region are saying that
Mali,
if you come at Niger, we see it as a declaration of war,
and all of us
come together and come at you. That is a dangerous thing that Dr. Eni and Co were talking about yesterday.
3 colonels decide that they're going to do.
And it is not something that we should be joking about. And we are saying this not as journalists, but we're just repeating what the government's own security minister has been echoing and re-echoing over the whole period. So please, if they give you a certain mandate to deliver a certain duty, do some job for the country, and it involves money, please be prudent, because we have seen it before. Yesterday, again in the news, 4 Nigerians were sitting on the radar of a ship from Nigeria across the Atlantic. They thought they were going to Europe. They landed in Brazil.
Hey.
Yes. And then they were living on seawater. That's what African leaders are doing to the youth.
Goodness me.
So they were before the cameras begging the Brazilian government to give them asylum. How much time do we have to save the youth of Africa? I mean, it doesn't. And people have so much money that they can keep some in their homes. And look, I mean,
these days you could be eating gobe with somebody. The next day or two, they'll be texting you with +44.
I'm asking Johnny. It's serious. I'm asking myself, if the MPP were in opposition and this amount of money was found in an NDC minister's home,
we wouldn't have slept.
Chief,
we wouldn't have slept.
And these monies that politicians have had in their boots, and it's not a new thing. If you read the case of Yebi and Avalefo, very, very prominent case in criminal law. One minister of state had about 100 million old cedis in his house belonging to a political party, and they stole the money. And they went to court, and the people told the court that, look, that court is supposed to look at the public interest things, and so this one is not a public interest matter, so they should leave them. Look at the argument. And then one minister, a former minister who is also in parliament now, some money was found in his boot. I don't want to mention names this morning, but these are stories. You remember?
If he has a name, mention him.
The car went to car wash. You remember that story? So politicians holding big money in their homes and around them.
The Western Regional Minister too. He said his money has not been stolen. He said,
and this presidential staffer also had $114,000.
And it's a lawyer, by the way.
You see, if you hear all these, and as a young man sitting here, a relatively young man, I'm an old youth. sitting here. When I remember my days at Burma Camp,
William O'Prey draw.
And then no, it's sometimes it's laughable. We are laughing not because it's funny, but it's laughable.
You don't laugh, you cry.
Roger Jakumasari on Facebook says African leaders are happy when their people are suffering. And this, that's the sentiment you get on the streets. Halidu Zakaria is watching us from Nkwanta in the Western North region, and so many others are watching us as well. But the conversation is that if you talk to other young people, you don't get a very nice vibe about African leaders. And it is dangerous. Dangerous to the point that people have first of all lost hope. People don't think that the situation will change anytime soon. People think that, okay, they are taking, so when I also get the opportunity to get in there, I will take. And I can tell you, if you just focus on this government alone, we saw Mr. Eugene Ahin and his wife and their properties.
That court case.
Yes, and people started asking questions.
And
in
the
4 years, somebody is able to get houses and apartments and these cars, and they say, "Oh, you can take this one." It's a serious matter. He's not the only one. There are so many others within the space. I mean, Mr. Jinapo, somebody said, "Oh, he's put up a big house at Damongo, his hometown." Mr. Payasaji, somebody says, "Oh, he put up a big house at Afife." When did they get the money and when did they put those things up? Questions start popping up. When the NDC had their primaries, you saw Sami Jemfi and what do you call it, Giorgio Pariado at each other's throats. When did you get the house at
look at your wedding.
Exactly, you get the point.
People died for having 2 toilets in their home.
So when the young people start hearing these things consistently, they think that politics is more lucrative than doing hard work, especially where churches flourish more than industries. I know factories around the South Industrial area, where William can bear me out because he worked closer to that place from traffic, that have been converted now into all manner of things. It's a serious matter. We are in serious trouble. The way we are going, if we don't take care, we will be in trouble, and we will never be able to come out of that trouble.
I agree with that, especially on the fiscal front. The investment culture that this government is succeeding in eroding is very, very dangerous. People are saying, well, I'm not going to give my money to any financial institution. I'm putting it in my bra, under my bed, in my shoebox, in my boots.
Because your cabinet minister who led you to IMF put her money in a room. And it was even by accident that she found out that $1 million had been stolen from it.
And
1 million by accident.
There's still something significant.
Patrick Edu says selflessness is absent in black people.
Charlie.
And then in Sharaba Nati Solomon says, we are not serious as a country. Watching live from Kofridia. So the sentiments, these are the sentiments of the people. And these are all young people.
The situation is bad.
But Johnny, beyond the sentiments, when we young people get the opportunity to lead, will we do anything different?
You see, it is a system. I was telling, I remember sometime in February when we started this new Sunrise. I said, look, you cannot enter Burma camp, no matter